I am a detective who has spent decades following threads of human tragedy and mystery. Today, I recount a case that confounded investigators and haunted those who heard its story: the disappearance of Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, 2013. By the way, if you're listening to this story in the middle of the night, or lying in a dark room, or somewhere on your way home, leave a comment telling me where you are and what time it is. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, so every time I tell a new story, you'll be the first to hear it, in the right place, at the right time. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old Canadian student from Vancouver. A bright, curious young woman, she traveled alone to Los Angeles, eager to explore the city and experience new places. On January 26, 2013, she checked into the Cecil Hotel, a place with a dark reputation for crime and despair. The hotel, located downtown, had a history of violence, suicides, and other sinister events dating back decades. Elisa's stay began like any other travelers, checking in, exploring, and meeting other guests. Yet just days after her arrival, she vanished. Her last known contact was a text message sent on January 31st, expressing frustration and unease. When she failed to check out as planned, the hotel staff and her family grew concerned. The search began quietly at first, but as days passed with no sign of Elisa, it became a full-scale investigation. The case quickly drew attention when surveillance footage emerged, footage that would become a critical yet perplexing piece of the puzzle. The Cecil Hotel itself added layers of complexity to the case. It was home to transient populations, including homeless people and criminals. The building's security and maintenance were less than ideal, and guests often reported strange noises and odd occurrences. This story is not just about a missing person. It is about a convergence of mystery, mental health struggles, and an environment steeped in darkness. It challenges our understanding of fate and forces us to question how much of a person's end is shaped by circumstance and how much remains forever unknown. The disappearance of Elisa Lam quickly became more than a case file. It turned into a phenomenon, spawning countless theories, some grounded in facts, others in speculation. Tonight, I will walk you through what happened, step by step. I will lay out the facts, the clues, and the contradictions. I will consider the people involved and the possible motives. And in the end, I will leave you with questions, the kind that linger long after the story ends. This is the story of Elisa Lam and the Cecil Hotel. In the days leading up to her disappearance, Elisa Lam's movements at the Cecil Hotel were both ordinary and unsettling. She arrived at the hotel on January 26, 2013, a young traveler alone in a sprawling city. The hotel was far from glamorous. Its reputation for crime and neglect preceded it. But Elisa seemed undeterred. Her behavior during her stay was marked by a mix of exploration and isolation. Guests and staff recalled seeing her wandering the hallways, sometimes appearing lost in thought or distracted. She carried a backpack, a habit common for travelers, and often appeared to be taking photographs or recording notes. On January 31st, a critical moment occurred. Elisa was last seen by hotel staff around this date. She had made a phone call to her parents, who described her as somewhat anxious, but otherwise normal. In a text message to a friend, Elisa mentioned feeling uncomfortable and hoped to leave the hotel soon. That same day, hotel staff reviewed security footage from the building's elevators. The video they found would soon become infamous. It showed Elisa inside an elevator acting strangely. She pressed multiple buttons, stepped in and out, crouched down, and appeared to speak or shout, though there was no sound on the footage. Her movements were erratic and difficult to interpret. At times, she seemed to be hiding or avoiding someone. The elevator video lasted about 3 minutes and ended abruptly when the doors opened, and Elisa exited the elevator. This footage was later released to the public, sparking a wave of intense curiosity and concern. Following Elisa's disappearance, the hotel and local police initiated a search. Staff checked her room, which was found intact. Her belongings undisturbed, no signs of struggle or forced entry. She had left behind her personal items, clothing, toiletries, and her backpack. Hotel guests and employees were questioned, but no one reported seeing anything clearly suspicious. The Cecil's transient population complicated matters. Many people came and went, and the environment was chaotic. The search expanded as days passed. Her family flew in from Canada to aid in the efforts. Flyers were distributed, social media campaigns launched, and detectives examined all leads. Yet despite these efforts, no trace of Elisa was found. The mystery deepened. How could a young woman disappear in a crowded hotel? Where had she gone after the elevator footage? The timeline from arrival to disappearance is narrow, just a few days, but within that window lies a complex web of events, behaviors, and unanswered questions. The elevator footage remains central to understanding those final hours. Her actions were puzzling. Was she confused, scared, or experiencing something more? Why did she behave as if she was hiding or being chased? Without sound or witness accounts, interpretation is difficult, yet the video is undeniable proof of her last known movements. This timeline sets the stage for the investigation that followed, a search for answers amid shadows. The investigation into Elisa Lam's disappearance hinged largely on the enigmatic elevator footage, which captured her unusual behavior in the days before she vanished. The video, silent yet haunting, raised as many questions as it answered. In the footage, Elisa presses multiple elevator buttons, seemingly at random. She steps in and out of the elevator several times, crouches down near the control panel, and appears to look around cautiously. At moments, she seems to speak or shout, but no audio was recorded. Her expressions shift rapidly: fear, confusion, urgency, though much remains unclear. Security footage from the hotel was limited and fragmented. There were no other recordings showing Elisa's movements outside the elevator around this time. Hotel staff and guests reported no direct sightings of her acting strangely beyond this point. Hotel management noted that the elevator was known for occasional malfunctions, sometimes stopping between floors or doors, failing to close properly. This raised speculation that Elisa's erratic actions might have stemmed from a technical issue, prompting her to try to operate the elevator manually or seek help. However, several puzzling contradictions emerged. For example, the hotel's water tanks, where Elisa's body was later found, were located on the rooftop, access to which was restricted and reportedly secured by locked doors. It was unclear how she could have accessed that area unnoticed. Moreover, the hotel's water supply had shown signs of contamination. Guests complained of discoloration and odd tastes, leading maintenance workers to investigate the water tanks. The hotel had issued warnings to avoid drinking tap water just before Elisa's disappearance, though this information was not widely publicized. Witness statements were inconsistent. Some hotel employees recalled hearing strange noises or seeing unexplained shadows in hallways, though these accounts were vague and unsubstantiated. Others insisted that the hotel was simply run down, but not dangerous. Elisa's mental health history added complexity to the case. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was reportedly managing it with medication. Some speculated that her behavior in the elevator could reflect a psychotic episode or a side effect of medication. However, family members emphasized that she was generally stable and cautious. Autopsy reports revealed no signs of foul play or trauma. Toxicology tests showed traces of prescription medications, but no illegal substances. The cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. Still, many found this conclusion difficult to accept. How does one drown in a water tank on a hotel roof? How did she get there? Why was there no clear evidence of her presence on the roof or in surveillance footage? These contradictions fuel alternative theories, ranging from accidental death, suicide, to foul play. Some suggested that the hotel's troubled environment and lax security could have contributed. Others wondered if supernatural explanations were at play, though these remain speculative. The conflicting clues create a maze. Each piece of evidence points in different directions. The elevator footage is a snapshot of confusion. The discovery of the body in the water tank opens new questions about access and circumstance. The hotel's history and condition paint a bleak backdrop. In this web of uncertainty, the line between fact and conjecture blurs. The case demands careful scrutiny, cautious reasoning, and an acceptance that not all answers may be found. As the investigation deepened, attention shifted toward potential suspects and the psychological factors that may have influenced Elisa Lam's fate. With no clear evidence pointing to an assailant, focus naturally turned to the complex interplay of her mental health and the environment of the Cecil Hotel. Elisa was open about her diagnosis of bipolar disorder, a condition characterized by fluctuations in mood and behavior. Those close to her noted that she had experienced periods of depression and mania, but had been under medical care and appeared stable in recent months. Yet, mental illness can be unpredictable, especially under stress. The hotel itself was a crucible of instability. Known for its transient residents, it housed individuals with criminal records, substance abuse issues, and homelessness. This volatile population created an atmosphere where safety was fragile and trust scarce. Detectives interviewed numerous guests and employees. Some described encounters with unpredictable or aggressive individuals. However, no one identified a specific person connected to Elisa or any suspicious behavior toward her. Theories of foul play emerged, fueled by the hotel's notorious past. Some speculated that Elisa had been targeted by a stranger or involved unwittingly with dangerous people. Yet the absence of physical evidence, no signs of struggle, no injuries, weakens this claim. Another line of inquiry involved the possibility of a suicide. Elisa's apparent anxiety and erratic behavior in the elevator video suggested distress. The hotel's water tanks, situated on the roof and challenging to access, offered a potential means. However, family and friends strongly opposed this theory, emphasizing Elisa's optimism and plans for the future. They described her as someone who sought help when overwhelmed, making a voluntary act of self-harm less likely. Alternative theories delved into accidental death. The water tanks, large and often uncovered, posed a hazard. It was conceivable Elisa entered the area, perhaps seeking solitude or due to disorientation, and fell victim to accidental drowning. Yet, access to the roof was reportedly restricted. How she reached the tanks without triggering alarms or being seen remains unexplained. There were also suspicions regarding the hotel's staff and management. Some former employees alleged negligence in maintaining security and water systems. Others suggested a cover-up to protect the hotel's reputation. The psychological aspect cannot be ignored. Mental illness, combined with isolation in an unfamiliar and eerie environment, may have impaired Elisa's judgment and perception. The elevator footage shows signs of fear or confusion, perhaps symptomatic of a manic or psychotic episode. The case exposes the fragile boundaries between victim and circumstance. It questions the roles of environment, health, and human interaction in tragic outcomes. Though suspects remain unidentified, the complex weave of factors surrounding Elisa's disappearance and death defies simple explanation. It reminds us that the human mind and the world it navigates can be both vulnerable and opaque. In this silence of certainty, only questions persist. Questions about who, what, and why. The turning point in the Elisa Lam case came with a grim discovery on February 19, 2013. Hotel guests had been complaining of low water pressure and strange tastes in the tap water for several days. Maintenance workers were dispatched to investigate the source of the problem. On the roof of the Cecil Hotel, workers found Elisa's body submerged in one of the 4 large water tanks supplying the building. The tank was about 8 feet tall and covered, but with enough space to enter. The conditions of the tank and its access points raised immediate questions. How had Elisa gained entry? How long had she been there? How had no one noticed? The autopsy confirmed the cause of death as accidental drowning. No signs of trauma or foul play were present. Toxicology reports showed the presence of prescribed medications consistent with her bipolar disorder, but no substances that would impair judgment beyond expected levels. Despite the medical conclusions, many found the scenario difficult to accept at face value. The hotel's roof was supposed to be secured, with locked doors and limited access. The path Elisa took to reach the tanks remained unknown. Surveillance footage from other cameras around the hotel failed to capture her movement outside the elevator footage. Investigators theorized that Elisa may have entered the roof area through a series of unlocked doors or climbed a fire escape. The hotel's outdated security protocols and poor maintenance likely contributed to the ease of access. The discovery of Elisa's body brought a somber end to the search, but opened new debates. Some argued the death was a tragic accident compounded by mental health struggles. Others suspected neglect or worse. In the days following the discovery, the hotel's reputation suffered further. The Cecil was already notorious for its troubled past, including previous deaths and criminal activities. The Lamb case reinforced the image of a place where darkness lingered. Law enforcement declared the case closed, ruling out homicide. The Los Angeles Police Department emphasized the accidental nature of the death, citing evidence and expert testimony. Yet the public and internet communities resisted simple closure. Online forums buzzed with speculation, ranging from conspiracy theories to paranormal explanations. Some suggested that Elisa was pursued by an unknown assailant, while others believed supernatural forces were involved, given the hotel's dark history. The case became a cultural phenomenon, symbolizing the intersection of mental illness, urban neglect, and mystery. In this breakthrough moment, the truth remained elusive. The facts, elevator footage, discovery of the body, autopsy results, painted an incomplete picture. The how was partially answered. The why remained an open question. The discovery was a grim reminder of human vulnerability amid indifferent surroundings. A young life lost, swallowed by circumstance, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. As investigators closed the file, the world continued to ponder. What truly happened to Elisa Lamb? Years have passed since Elisa Lamb's tragic death, yet the case remains wrapped in ambiguity and unanswered questions. The official narrative of accidental drowning at the Cecil Hotel's water tank is accepted by law enforcement, but many details defy simple explanation. The lingering mystery begins with access. How did Elisa reach the roof, bypassing security measures? The hotel's chaotic condition, broken locks, unsecured doors, and unmonitored areas likely provided opportunities. Still, the exact path remains unknown, hidden in gaps in surveillance and human oversight. Elisa's mental health casts a long shadow. Bipolar disorder can cause disorientation and impaired judgment, especially when combined with stress or medication changes. The elevator footage suggests moments of fear or paranoia, but it does not tell the whole story. Was she experiencing a psychotic episode? Did she seek refuge or escape? The silence in the video is deafening. The Cecil Hotel's reputation adds another layer of darkness. Known for past suicides, violent crimes, and decrepit conditions, it became a character in the tragedy. Could the environment itself have contributed? Neglect, fear, and despair permeated its halls, affecting residents and guests alike. Alternative theories persist. Some propose foul play, although evidence is lacking. Others speculate supernatural involvement, an idea fueled by internet lore and the hotel's haunted reputation. These theories, while unproven, reflect the human need to find meaning in chaos. The family of Elisa Lamb continues to mourn a daughter lost too soon. They remind us that behind headlines and videos was a young woman with hopes and dreams. Their calls for awareness about mental health and kindness echo beyond the case. This story challenges our understanding of fate and justice. It forces us to confront the fragility of life in urban anonymity, the gaps in safety nets for vulnerable individuals, and the limits of our knowledge. What happened to Elisa Lam is partly known, partly guessed, and partly unknowable. It is a reminder that some mysteries resist closure, and some truths remain shadows. In the end, we are left to ask, in a world filled with noise and darkness, can we ever truly know what became of a single lost soul? The disappearance and death of Elisa Lam at the Cecil Hotel is a haunting tale of uncertainty. It combines the tragedy of mental illness, the neglect of an environment unfit for safety, and the inscrutability of human behavior under duress. The case remains one of the most perplexing mysteries of recent times, partly because it sits at the crossroads of fact and speculation. Law enforcement's conclusion of accidental drowning explains some aspects, but leaves many gaps. The lack of direct evidence on how Elisa accessed the water tanks, the eerie elevator footage capturing her strange behavior, and the hotel's notorious reputation all contribute to a narrative that feels incomplete. The story also shines a light on broader societal issues: the treatment of mental health, the vulnerabilities faced by travelers alone in unfamiliar cities, and the consequences of institutional neglect. Elisa's case is a tragic example of how these factors can intersect with fatal results. For those who follow this story, the lingering questions fuel endless theories. Was Elisa running from something or someone? Did a medical episode cause her confusion? Or was it a cruel accident compounded by circumstance? The truth may never be fully uncovered. Yet, in retelling this story, we honor Elisa Lam, not as a mystery to be solved, but as a human being whose life was cut short. Her case prompts reflection on our responsibilities to one another, to mental health awareness, and to creating safer environments. As the shadows of the Cecil Hotel grow longer, Elisa's story remains a somber reminder that some truths dwell in silence, and justice may be as elusive as the final moments of a lost life. Thanks for listening. See you in the next video.